Hi, everybody. This is Patti Negri. Welcome to the witching hour, that hour of the day when the veil is thin and magic happens, whenever it is that you are listening to this podcast. I have a beautiful guest today because the magic in this witching hour is my wonderful, talented, magical guests. And today's guest is a girl that I've known forever, but we just realized we probably have never met in person. And now that she was living in Southern California, and now that she's left Southern California, now we're going to meet. But
Yeah,
let me introduce you. Yeah, that's yeah, that's LA. That's the
yeah,
world.
it's
That's
true.
the new world of living on in little square boxes. But let me
Mhm.
introduce you to writer, astrologer, and witch, Renee Watt. Thank you, Renee, so much for coming on. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is such a great way to finally sit down and have a conversation with each other.
I know, in front of everybody. I mean, we've hung together at the same shops in Los Angeles, taught together online, um, all sorts of things, and it's about darn time. That's all I can say.
Yes, absolutely, I agree.
Now, I know you're very accomplished in all that you do. What I am so excited about is I love the fact that you are a written astrologer because I love astrology in itself. I am not because it's a little too numbery for my little left brain side of things, how you must dance between your intuitive and your logical brain. And I know you write lots of different articles and columns, right, on
Yeah.
astrology.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what is, and again, we just talked about this, that's why I'm jumping right in there.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm in the paranormal world. I
Mhm.
ghost hunts and you do ghost hunts and all that, but
Yes.
what is paranormal astrology?
So this is one of my favorite projects that I work on each month, and it's actually it's something that I haven't really read a lot about, but it's just kind of I'm also a psychic. I also do readings, and so it's one of these connections that I just started to naturally make as I was learning astrology. And for this particular project, I write for a magazine called Paranormality Magazine, and I write their monthly horoscopes, but it's not like, oh, you're gonna find love or blah 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 your business. It's more like, hey, the Taurus new moon is gonna be really good if you want to manifest something around your career. Or the moon is in Cancer, so you're going to be feeling a lot more empathic than you normally would. So you should probably, indulge in some sort of psychic defense practice. And so I kind of will take the analytical side of astrology, but I will tie it to, how I think it affects manifestation, psychic ability, paranormal encounters. When we have Aquarius energy active, it's to me very connected to alien encounters,
Mhm.
UFO encounters. If we're looking at, if the moon is in an earth sign and you're going to go do a ghost hunt, for instance, I would look out for sensory type of cues that there's a presence. So, the chills on your
Mhm.
skin versus like a clairaudient thing, which might happen when the moon's in Gemini. And so to me, if you know what the planets are looking like and you know what how psychic ability or psychic phenomena manifests, you can kind of bring those two together to figure out what energy you're walking into and how you might experience it.
That's where I was getting at. Absolutely love that. I certainly love that you put it into our magical practice and our lifestyle, just not are you going to find love on Tuesday, that
Mhm.
how it's going to work in your manifestation or your spell work or your practice or your ritual practice. But the paranormal thing, so if we're going into seasons where the planets are and things like that, are you looking individually, like now if the paranormal investigator is a Libra versus a Leo, is there ways that they can incorporate astrology into their paranormal stuff?
Totally, totally. If I was going to take your chart, for instance, and I knew you were going to go do an investigation, I would look to see if there were any planetary interactions that were happening in your natal chart. So basically, what's do you know what your moon sign is?
Libra, Sag rising. That's all I can ever
Okay,
remember. I'm Libra, Sag rising.
perfect, perfect. So Libra, if your moon was in wait, Libra sun or
Oh,
Libra
yeah,
moon?
my regular sign, I'm a Libra, October 13th,
Okay.
and my
Um,
rising is Sag. That's all I can remember. I have
okay.
it written down.
Either way, yeah. Well, I mean, even if we just looked at your sun,
Mhm,
if the moon was in Libra, for example, in real time right now, and it was crossing over your sun. I would think to myself, well, the moon is very emotional, so you're probably going to have emotional reactions to a presence versus something else. But if Mars was going over your sun or your moon, or a planet that, it's triggering something in your chart, I'd say, well, Mars is an aggressive planet, so you might have a cagey feeling. You might have more of a, feeling in your stomach, or your blood rushing and your blood pumping. So things like that. Or if Saturn was over one of your planets, and it was very active, I might say you might not get anything because Saturn's a block. Or here's how you can walk around. Here's how you can work around it, because there are tricks that you can do. So if I know Saturn is going to potentially block me psychically, I'm going to look for a way around that, and it could be giving an offering to Saturn, so it's busy with something else. There are ways to play with it.
Oh my gosh, you have something there. You could have a whole career in this with all, I mean, 'cause everybody on the whole planet is a paranormal investigator right now. You could say,
Yeah.
did you do your chart before you go on this? Did you just like, oh, I
Yeah.
got to do
I
the,
could do
I need to bring
communication.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Very
need this kind of ghost tool
bizarre.
versus that kind of ghost tool. That's fast. Now, what
Well, that's
about,
the thing.
yeah, I think that is brilliant. I think you could be the next hit of Paracons if you're not doing it. Honest, they're just, I met them. People don't go there with this, and I get how they should. Now, on the other or the opposite veil of things,
Mhm.
now if I mean, if you're just calling in grammar or whatever, but if you're on a paranormal investigation and you know who you're calling in,
Yeah.
would that help to know the spirits, like astrological sign?
I mean, I think it could. I think what would be really interesting is if you could look at someone's entire chart, because if we're looking at the other side, like the afterlife, you would kind of want to look at the 12th house, or where their Scorpio or Pluto placements were. Because Pluto's kind of the planet that's going to connect us to the underworld. So
Hmm.
if I knew, you know, how Pluto was acting in that person's chart, I might try to tap into that energy and create almost a portal of sorts. Or I might dress a candle with the planetary affiliations of their sun sign or their Mercury sign, which is communication. So I totally, now you're getting my mind
I, I
split.
I know we're spinning because even
Yes.
and I'm thinking like even with mediumship, say somebody wants to talk to their mother, their father, they know everything. When they're born, they know their whole chart. I knowing that again, just like how to talk to a Leo versus how to talk to a spirit. I
Yeah.
think that's
Or what might attract them too.
right. And
Yeah.
how to talk to them. I think
Yeah.
that's fabulous. So how did you get into this world? What is Renee's story a little bit as far as into the magical world, your gift, the
Uh,
ability? I know you're super gifted. So
Thank you. um, it's it's one of those things that kind of goes back through my family a little bit, but I didn't know that until I made it my career, kind of, because my upbringing was pretty Catholic. And
Mhm.
so finding out, like, my grandma used to read cards, but she stopped because she was too accurate. Like, I never knew that, and I had an aunt who read tea leaves, and I find out later my mom used to have visions. So that's kind of, I would say, the actual root of it. But in terms of when it came into my life, I was 10 years old, and my eldest brother was seeing this girl who I was super close with. She was like another sister to me, and she got a tarot deck. And then I was like, like what? So I saved up my allowance, and she took me to a new age shop, and I got the Rider Waite tarot deck. And I was giving readings to my friends, giving readings on recess. Like, I had a little circle of kids around me at recess every day. And it was just kind of like something I really threw myself into, because it was just, I was raised Catholic, but nothing about that really resonated. And this I immediately was just totally connected with. And then from that point, you know, my mom did have a little bit of an interest in the paranormal. Like, she would listen to Coast to Coast. And so she actually took us to a developing your psychic ability and mediumship class. And
No.
she had to get special permission for me to take it because it was at the community college. And basically, I was taught how to channel. and like go into the astral realm. And I don't think she was using terminology like that. But I realized later that that's what I was learning. And again, I would like channel people at sleepovers, and it was like a party trick, I guess, in some ways. And then I found a book on witchcraft and formed a coven on my 13th birthday, and then so on and so on.
That's beautiful. So yeah, just kind of nudged into the path. I I love that. Channeling at slumber parties. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So then again, astrology being slightly different in the realm that many do it. Why astrology, or how astrology? Because again, that's a whole different skill set.
And it was one that I was always really afraid of. And kind of what happened there was having this be part of my life for so long, I kind of was looking for, what's the next adventure? How am I going to, improve my knowledge base? And it was pretty much right around my Saturn return, so around 28 years old, that I decided I was going to learn astrology. But I needed to create some sort of accountability for myself. This is Voodoo. She just hopped up. I needed to create some sort of accountability for myself. And so I built a podcast around me learning astrology called Witch Doctorate. And my idea was, I'm going to like witch university. I'm going to witch school. And this is me getting my doctorate's degree. And so I really went into it like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to read some books and then like talk, discuss it with you guys. And I did not think it was going to turn into what it turned into, because now I'm pulling charts every single day. But I had to learn because I had to commit to my podcast, basically.
That's great. Accountability in public.
Yes.
Okay. So astrologically, does everything we've gone through, like this whole pandemic, does this all fit into an astrological thing?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So a little bit about that without going too crazy. And so what's next for us astrologically in this crazy place we're all in?
Well, I mean, we've got, so kind of how it ties into the pandemic. In the beginning of 2020, we had Saturn, which is our structures, aligned with Pluto, which is like a big bulldozer. And those planets don't move very fast. So it doesn't happen very often that they sit right on top of each other. And so it was about a month after that lockdown started happening. The whisper of COVID started to get real. And then, it's just been like a steady decline since then.
Yeah.
So now where we're at now, and I would say like the biggest astrological thing that I'm kind of following right now is we have what are referred to as the nodes of fate. And it's kind of like the north and south pole of the moon. It's what gives us eclipses when we have, we just had a lunar eclipse 2 nights ago. And so the nodes of fate kind of determine like when an eclipse will happen. And eclipses are known to really be these sort of like life shifting moments. It changes the course of your path. And we just had the north and south node at the end of last year. They changed signs. So this happens about every year and a half. And it kind of tells us what's going to be happening for the next year and a half. So the south node is currently in Scorpio. And this is sort of what we're releasing. If you wanted to look at your natal chart, the south node might be your past lives. It's stuff you come into this world knowing, but you don't necessarily need to keep reliving. And right now the south node is in Scorpio, which is the most destructive sign. So we're just having a lot of destruction right now. We are clearing out a lot of stuff. Things are changing. Meanwhile, we have the north node in Taurus, who really wants to build. And the idea is we're trying to rebuild our society after we've had all this stuff happen, but we're still getting kind of pulled back. And there are a lot of other astrological aspects that you could, align with what we're going through right now. One of them being just, it feels like we're going backwards. And a lot of that is just, we have Uranus. I feel like I'm like, whenever I talk about astrology, I feel like I'm like blurting out planets.
No, this is fabulous. I'm a total layman in this. It is not my area. I'm understanding it. If I blank out, I'll let you know. If I like, what?
Okay.
I'll let you
Okay,
know.
perfect.
Getting it
That's always
completely.
my paranoia is always that I'll lose
Yeah.
people talking to like technically.
No.
So another thing that we have going on is we have Saturn again, which is our structures, and we have Uranus, which is, it tries to revolutionize things for us. And basically, since the beginning of the year, they've been fighting. And Uranus will try to get us to move in a certain direction, and Saturn will be like, no. And then, crazy stuff is happening. Our structures aren't consistent, but it also feels like, we're going backwards. People aren't willing to change. And so, this story, I don't feel like we're going to have a conclusion about what that looks like until maybe the end of the year.
Okay. Okay. Because they're fighting. That's right. The planets are fighting. We're fighting. I guess this all goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so what? So, eh, but doing astrology, like what you think is coming. You may not know, like prediction wise, what we do with what's coming. Energetically wise, can you tell, like planet, like we're going to go into this mode or anything like that, or you just can't tell yet? Like how everybody going, we're moving into the age of Aquarius kind of stuff.
Right. Right. Which a lot of astrologers say like isn't a thing. Like we like we
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I feel like if people want to say that we're in the age of Aquarius, I don't care. Like let people
Yeah.
say what they want to say. But in terms of like where we're going, I don't know that I will make a ton of predictions per
Yeah.
se, but I'm very aware when like big transits are happening and where we're seeing big movements. For instance, the United States just had its Pluto return, which is the same thing as like a Saturn return or solar return. It's the planet is going back where it was when the United States was born.
Wow.
And, again, Pluto is the planet of death and destruction. And so the day that the United States had its Pluto return, Russia declares war on the Ukraine. And I was like, ooh, like, because we're so involved in this right now and no one knows how it's going to go. So I know that this really intense planetary activity happened right when this happened. So to me, I don't know that I would ever make a prediction one way or the other, but it just makes me feel like I can like prepare myself emotionally for certain things, or I know when it's time to pull back. Like we're in Mercury retrograde right now. So I know that my internet might be messed up certain days, or
Mhm.
I know that traffic might be worse. So it's sort of like, okay, I'm aware of what is happening with energies, but I don't necessarily know exactly how they're going to play out.
Okay, that makes sense. And I'm not a prediction person in my work or psychic work, but I'm thinking like just like you said, if you're going on paranormal investigation and the stars are here and the planets are there, so is there a way that we can be to get the best results? Like we should be more left brain or right brain. We should be more come from emotion. We should come from
Mm-hmm.
logic as a
Yeah.
people in general or individual kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it would vary individual to individual. And and I'm like way more comfortable making predictions or judgments on how something might go. I never give a hard prediction because I think the
Yeah.
future is fluid. But if I'm talking to someone, I see their chart or it's a tarot reading or a psychic reading, and I know what their agenda is, I know what their goals are, it's way easier to advise like how to navigate the energy because I can say, okay, this is what I think you're gonna, maybe run into. This is what I think your behavioral patterns look like, and this is how I think you should maybe adjust. Things like that. I think it's
Yeah.
way easier person to person than it is on the grand scale of things.
Humans as a whole, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, here's a question I've never asked anybody in my whole life.
Okay.
Do animals have signs?
Yeah. Yes. Voodoo right here is a Taurus. She has a Gemini moon. And if you wanted to read, you could read an animal's chart. You would just kind of turn the chart in a different way because the sixth house is what rules animals. So if I was reading a person's chart, I would look at their first house, and that would be what kicks off the chart. In an animal reading, I would go over to where the sixth house normally would be, and I would start that as the first house. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. Even to a layperson me. So that is
Okay,
good.
perfect.
So like a Leo dog versus a Capricorn dog versus that's just
Yeah,
fascinating to me. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I think a Leo dog would probably be, um, I feel like a Leo dog
Sparky?
would think, yeah, and like think it was the alpha, and the Capricorn would be a little bit more stoic and a little bit more reserved, but like is actually the alpha. But it's just like lets the Leo think it's the alpha type of thing.
That's fascinating to me. Now, again, you both being I'm throwing questions at you that
Yeah,
I
I love
want to
it.
know.
Bring them.
I'm a tarot reader. I'm a psychic. I'm a medium, but I'm
Yeah.
absolutely not astrologer. Um, is that a whole other layer? Like if you're reading somebody and you're not saying you're reading someone, do they tend to go hand in hand? Do they fit with each other? Does they bounce off each other kind of thing? Or is your tarot going to say one thing in your astrology and you have to meet them in the middle? Or is there?
I I feel like the way that I interpret information from each tool is similar, but it's also totally different. But I think that there's always a way that you can connect the dots. You know, that's your job as a reader, right? How do I
Yeah,
connect these dots? And so if I'm getting conflicting messages, I might just be missing something and I have to kind of look further, or it could just speak to the internal conflict that person is dealing with as well. So I definitely think that you can use both. I don't typically do both at the same time just because when I'm doing astrology readings, I'm looking at a chart and that's all I'm looking at. And it's hard to kind of move away from that, and especially because with astrology it's like I could do an astrology tarot combination reading, but it would kind of just depend on like what that person wanted. Like if they were getting married on a certain day and they wanted to make sure the energy was good on that day, I'd pull the chart. These are what you look out for, and then maybe a tarot spread on the marriage, something like that.
right. That's fascinating. Yeah, because I think that's one of the things that's always, frightened me about knowing astrology. Because tarot, we're using so much of our psychic skills. That's not what's in the book about tarot, that how you
Hmm.
interpret and things. And from what I know from other astrologers, they go, this is fact. This is the number. This is the node. It's less malleable. I mean, not saying
Yeah,
what's going to happen, but
yeah, and I think that that's a really common perspective from astrologers. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like you still need your intuition when you're doing an astrology reading, because if we're looking at the planets, those are archetypes just like the Hierophant or the High
mhm,
Priestess are, right?
yeah,
And so I really need to, if I'm working with Mars energy, I really need to ask Mars what it's saying. And just like I would ask, the Emperor what he's saying. And
right,
so
exactly
I feel like the intuition for me, I think it
the
comes through
same.
just as much. I'm just using a little bit of a like more of an analytical mind to pull in my tool. But I think intuition comes through all the time.
With everything.
Because even sometimes if I'm reading a natal chart and I feel like, if someone's fourth house says that they have a strained relationship to their mother, but I'm not feeling that, I won't say it because I don't agree with it. You know what I mean? And
Right.
it could be something else. So that's when intuition totally comes into play.
That is fascinating. So what are some of the places where people can find you, both your regular astrology things and your paranormal astrology, which I can't wait to go to?
Yeah. Yes. So the paranormal horoscopes are monthly, and that is a fairly new magazine called Paranormality Magazine. And you can find them on Instagram. You can find them online. It's available in digital and print. And then shondaland.com, I write their monthly horoscopes and usually a couple of one-off articles every month. So like Pluto retrograde, I just did. And then astrology.com, I write the daily horoscope. So if you go to astrology.com, it'll be kind of the first thing that pops up what your daily horoscope is. And then horoscope.com, I don't have bylines, but I do their monthly horoscopes and like their full moon reports. And then the newsette you can subscribe to. And they will do monthly horoscopes every month. So yeah, I'm writing a lot.
Wow, that's a lot of astrology. I love it. And I do love where you combine the magic part with that as well.
I
So
have the most
looking, mhm,
I have so
uh,
much fun with.
that's amazing to me. Yay. Yay for you. So, in general, not looking at what's going to happen to our planet or what's going to happen to our world. Does summer have a feeling to it, planetary wise, for a generalization, or is that too general to look at?
I mean, to me, I think, I mean, it's hard because I feel like, um, if I'm looking at the world as a whole, it's messy. Like astrology or not, it's messy right now. And, I think that we're just going to be having to listen to the same type of news over and over again. Like we're on the, what's going on with the war, what's going on with COVID, what's going on with vaccine. We've got surges, we're down, we got masks, we have to take them off, we're putting them on again. So
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be a lot of the same. But I think that people are going to be looking for ways to escape that. So, like on a social front, I think that people are going to really be just kind of like pulling in the people that they love, their social nets, and looking for ways to kind of just create happiness for themselves, right? I think that we're going to be looking for ways to like kind of build our own realities, build our own little bubbles, more so than we have recently. So I feel like it's going to be a little bit of a party summer for people.
Okay.
um, but it's almost going to be like coupled with this like grim reality of the world. So almost like a little bit of escapism, just
Okay.
to keep our wits about us.
Right. Well, we probably need it. Again, if people have
Yeah,
been locked
yeah.
in their room for so long, and you can see
Hmm.
the frustration that they're coming out. So on the witchy, astrology aside, on your witchy magical side, your gifted
Yes.
side, um, same thing. What do you think of this new resurgence? Like we're fashionable now. Again, I've been doing this for so many decades, whatever. It's like decades ahead of the curve, but of the resurgence in, alternative spirituality, witchcraft, paganism, even new age stuff that doesn't quite go to where we are. Is your thoughts on that because the world is so crazy, or does that line up astrologically, or is it just the fad of the moment?
There is an astrological, I have a friend who like pointed out astrologically why, but I cannot remember what they said. From my own perspective, I think that it's almost like ties with a rise in feminism in a lot of ways. I think that women are just tired of like subscribing, and not just women. I think people are just tired of subscribing to these religious, you know, monsters or religious organizations that aren't very inclusive, aren't very empowering. And so I think that where this is coming from is people just don't want to be told what to believe in, or that, you have to
Right.
be like a man to talk to God, as what happens with the Catholic Church and a lot of other religions. And so I think that people are just moving away from being excluded. And I think that's happening, in society as a whole. Now, there are people who are challenging that and fighting against that because they're threatened, because we're trying to topple over the king, basically. But I think that's where it's coming from, is people just want to feel independent and powerful and spiritually fulfilled.
Right. I agree, and I think that's one of the good things coming out of all this. If it's because we're in scary times or whatever the reasons for it, we don't want the patriarchy. We don't want. I think people, if they've gone back to church or temple or whatever, and it's just not quite doing it for them, they're going to go
Hmm.
outside it. But what I do like about it is that we take responsibility. These other alternative forms of whatever you want to call it, spirituality path, is we do take responsibility, which is, I think, we need to do for ourselves, for our own action. So yay, hallelujah.
Yeah, I totally agree. The shadow self is an important thing to recognize and look at.
Yes. So, all right, I could have 1,000 questions, but we're running out of time. So tell everybody, again, you guys have to check out this beautiful woman. So where can people find you, find your work, find websites, social media? Give it all. Give it all.
I am most active on Instagram, which is rainbowglitterstar.com, and that's where I kind of promote all of the work that I do. And online, my website is rainbowglitterstar.com. If you want more information about, my readings, or if you want to book something, you can reach out through the website or on Instagram. I also have a podcast, The Glitter Cast. It's been on hiatus since my move, but it'll be back up again. And then my old podcast, Witch Doctorate.
Okay, that's beautiful. And where did Rainbow Glitter Star come from? I love it so much.
It was before I was even thinking about using Instagram as a tool for my business. I was just like, oh, I need to make up a username after downloading the app for the first time. And Rainbow Glitter Star just like popped in my head. And I almost wonder if it was like fed to me, like, like my guide said or something, because it was very much just like popped into my mind.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So that's why.
I love it.
Love all those things though. Rainbow Glitter Star.
Right, exactly. What's to not love?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Renee and Rainbow Glitter Star, for coming
Yeah.
to the Witching Hour, bringing your magic, your witchy magic, your astrology magic. Come back again, because we're going to get into that paranormal stuff one more time. But
I would love that. We could look at your chart even if you wanted to. And
I would love that. I would
Yeah.
love that. So any last words you want for anybody? I rarely do this to people, but if not, that's okay too.
I don't think so. I feel like with last words, it's just sort of, I don't know, do what makes you happy. I guess be a good person, do what makes you happy.
Amen. I like that. I agree wholeheartedly. So
Yeah.
thank you, you guys. Everybody check her out. Renee Watt, Rainbow Glitter Star. See you on the Witching Hour.